Welcome back to another new world between the streams. Today we're going to be going over my thoughts on the changes thus far in between the previous closed beta and now and the open beta. And yeah, there's a lot to go over, so we'll just take this a little bit at a time. I do have some side quests here that I'm going to be taking care of as we speak. And from what I can tell, the game seems to be running a lot smoother. They did increase the size of the player base within each server, and it doesn't seem to have hindered the game too much. At the top left there, you can see my latency. 40s is not bad at all. I am playing on an East Coast server right now. It is a medium to high pop server currently, and I haven't had any issues with needing to queue or anything like that to get into the game, which is nice. The last beta had a lot of stability issues. Oh, I tried to save you, buddy. Alright, well, we had to do that real quick. Anyway, the stability issues seems to have been resolved. There are occasional lag spikes, in all honesty, but they're not too bad. Successful stress test, I would say. Hopefully they keep the player base high because there seems to be a lot of players. Now, once you start to get players into the higher tiers, you'll have everybody spread out throughout the map, and it's really not going to be like a big cluster, except for in the major populated cities, which most MMOs have that anyway. I need to turn this off. I hate the amount of chat while I'm trying to record anyway. There are a lot of players running around doing PvP, so if you're PvP focused, you're definitely going to have plenty to do. As for the life staff changes, now there weren't too many. There were a couple nerfs and a kind of a buff. Now, if you were wearing light armor, as you can see, I am. If you're wearing light armor, you can actually get some healing bonuses, which is kind of cool. Heavy armor cannot get healing bonuses. They actually take a hit to your healing potency now, which goodbye paladin builds. So rip. I did have a buddy that was running a paladin build, and they weren't too thrilled with that change. Now, for me, I had always intended to stay in light gear, so this doesn't affect me, and it's actually kind of a buff to my playstyle. For everybody else who is not fond of that, I apologize, and hopefully Amazon rethinks their stance on this. It seems like they're bottlenecking people a little bit, because before I could wear full faction gear, have like a set of heavy pants, and maybe some medium gloves, and be able to have a little bit of damage reduction while still staying in the light category. Now they want us to specifically stay in one section or another without those extra damage mitigators. And speaking of armor in general, they made everybody a lot more squishy. So you, even as a tank in heavy armor, you take a lot of damage. Although they did give the tanks the ability to have more stamina, which means they can be blocking attacks a lot more effectively, which is kind of nice. So the healers are going to have a harder time keeping their tanks alive. But if you understand the class, you'll probably do okay. I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it, but I definitely think that I will do okay. I'm looking forward to doing the first dungeon to test all these things out. Now, speaking of dungeon mobs, they did increase the overall health and damage output of all of those enemies, which means you're going to have a harder time getting through that content. But as long as you go with the appropriate setup for those dungeons, instead of just going all DPS, you should take yourself a healer and a tank and some DPS, and you'll be just fine getting through those, I'm sure. Now, as for the end boss in the expeditions, they actually made it so that the boss has a higher chance of dropping some of the named loot, which is really good because there'd be many times running dungeons and never receiving any items from it that were worthwhile. If you're under-leveled for a set piece of content whenever you go into dungeons before, you would also receive a less of a chance to get any kind of decent loot. They've also standardized the types of drops that you can get from different dungeons as well. Tank gear, like sword and shield, will have more standardized stats on it. So like swords, and now don't quote me on this because I'm not 100% sure if I read this correctly, but it sounds like if a sword drops, you're pretty much guaranteed to get strength on it, but the secondary stat could be anything, or it could just be pure strength. So you could get a sword with strength intelligence, or strength dexterity, or just pure strength, which is kind of neat. And then you're less likely to get like a pure focus sword from a dungeon, which is good. Now, hopefully, Amazon continues to do big changes. It seems like most of the changes were for the better. Our ability to complete content has gotten a lot better. The market board's got a huge nerf, which means, it's going to be harder to level just from that. Now, players who are only doing crafting, don't worry too much because it's still a very easy way to level. It's just not quite as powerful as it used to be. And to be fair, it was way overpowered before, so I'm alright with the change. But that's probably going to do it for us today. Just wanted to go over a brief bit of what's going on. Hopefully we get some more patch notes before the launch, which I'm sure we will. And we can figure out how much stuff has changed. It still seems fairly easy level, although they did make it easier to get from 1 to 30. And then after that, it's back to a decent grind. At any rate, that's going to do it for us here today. Thank you, everybody, for stopping out. Don't forget to get in those giveaways, and I appreciate you if you managed to stick around this long. Hopefully, I didn't ramble too much, and I was clear enough in my explanations of everything that's been going on. And I look forward to continuing to test this during the open beta. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. Stay healthy out there, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.